let's talk about the moonshot that you're working on and the company, about a minute or two.
Sure. So Beyond Lucid Technologies is unusual in a couple ways. It's been around for a while. We figured out some of the unit economics of emergency medical services, and our objective is at the highest level to connect emergency responders with the ecosystems they serve. So obviously the goal, as the moonshot is called, is saving lives. My personal mission is actually to ensure that the responders themselves are empowered and safe, so that when they arrive on scene, they know who they're taking care of, and the information about whether it's a patient, a child, end-of-life medical order, a crash scene, et cetera. Any of these really acute encounters can be captured and conveyed in a way that, quite frankly, allows them to get their paperwork done faster, get that information handed off, and get back to their station so they can eat and rest and be ready to serve another day.
Fantastic. What do you want your partners or investors to know, really behind the scenes? What do you do and what key messages around it?
So I actually really love this question, so thank you for letting me, Gene. So I was thinking a couple years ago, the San Francisco Chronicle quoted me as describing entrepreneurship as finding a way to survive until the market wants what you have to offer, which is like the one time I've talked to a journalist and been properly quoted. So I'm going to answer your second question first, if I may, as far as sort of what our ask is of partners. We actually like to ask them what their pain is. Because by the time most of our partners come to us, they have experienced something. I work in emergency response, as we talked about before. So to the degree that, for example, finding that a patient was resuscitated, and then later on it was found out that they wished they hadn't been. Right? Finding out that your community has children with special health needs who are engaged inappropriately, and maybe EMS arrived on scene and the lights or the sirens actually made the situation worse because it was an inappropriate interaction. Finding out that your substance use problem in your community, where everybody who is a chronic substance user is known, are you properly engaging them to not just react to the fact that they keep overdosing, but by the time they come to us, they're starting to realize that they need to do something different. And even fundamentally, sometimes we're drowning in paper. I've actually had one of the largest trauma centers in the United States come to me and said they actually got dinged by the Joint Commission because they have too many unread paper patient care reports from ambulances, despite the fact that they have all this electronic infrastructure. So my conversation tends to be around what their pain is. Yep. The misconception, and like I said, you and I have known each other a long time, I've been around for a minute, is this market is massive. My tagline for the ambulance business is that the siren is the soundtrack of the city. And cities are getting bigger, right? It's a global business. I have found over the years that most folks tend to believe that EMS is however it is in their backyard, which makes some sense, right? But I also learned in business school that if you have a big, hairy, expensive problem that people are willing to pay a lot to fix, someone's doing it. Yep. And it turns out in EMS in particular and in healthcare, that's not always the case, right? There are massive open spaces. Kurtz is doing one of them, right? These massive open spaces that are truly underserved. And so I tend to try to correct that misconception that these are really big industries that are eminently servable, profitably servable, and at the end of the day, the patients, the responders, and their ecosystem all benefit.
Jonathon, one or two sentences. If you had a magic wand 20 years from now?
Oh, wow.
Keep it short.
Honestly, 20 years from now, no car crashes. All right. And if there was something, people would, the folks who are arriving on scene would know exactly what had happened, not only to the vehicle, but to the people involved.
That was 7 sentences. We got about 3 minutes left. Would love to kind of, we keep talking about the great stuff in the future, but we just had tough 2 years, and I think it's going to continue being just from everything from geopolitical climate, et cetera. What is kind of one key thing that you've learned as an entrepreneur in the last couple of years in software? And again, please keep it pretty short and for other entrepreneurs to just pick it up.
So what we learned from the pandemic, we need to take care of our emergency responders. Yeah. I believe this is the second panel at this conference in which they've been mentioned. The first was a discussion about opioids. So to the degree that whether they are fire-based, whether they're EMS-based, we need to pay them what they're worth. We need to make sure they have time to sleep and to eat, ideally not have to get 2 or 3 jobs to support themselves. The unsung heroes of the last 2 years have been the people who have arrived in Tyvek, in people's homes, despite the heat and the weather, and they have lifted people up off the ground. And in addition to COVID, they're still dealing with all the other crises that were there, people driving 90 miles an hour on the road because there's fewer cars, and the mental and physical effects of being shut in. I hope we've learned some lesson that of the lasting impact and the necessity of the folks who go to the crisis. And that by the next time something happens, we give them all the tools they need to take care of the communities and themselves.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for spending this time and educating the audiences, never give up, right? So I'm going to take that a key. Thank you very much.